In this day and age where every country is developing advanced weapon systems, are they being able to test those weapon systems or not is the question. Are they being able to really use them in real wartime? China is a country that has not used its integrated weapon systems in the way that it did or Pakistan did for China. So it has become a case study. Some of them were quite successful. Some might not have been that successful, but what it really showed is that this integrated weapon system of China works. And there's one country that it has rattled, that is now concerned, and is expressing those concerns at a time when maybe America might not stand with it and stand by it. And that's Taiwan. What's happening? How's Taiwan thinking? What's the difference in their military capabilities? And should China really decide to go into Taiwan, what happens? To discuss all this and more, I'm being joined by Suyash Desai. He is a PLA expert, has studied and monitors the movements of the Chinese army, the Chinese military very, very closely, based out of Taipei in Taiwan. Suyash, thank you so much for joining us here on India Today Global. Let's begin with the first fact that Chinese systems were used, Chinese weapon systems were used. Some of them have reportedly done very well for Pakistan. Most of them we'd question, but whether if it was a success or not, it is being claimed as a success and therefore being touted by China. How is Taiwan looking at all this?
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. Taiwan was looking at this war at this conflict very carefully. Taiwan has been looking at all conflicts very carefully and learning out of it, but especially this conflict because 81% of the Pakistani weapons and weapon systems are Chinese. Though Pakistan doesn't have the best Chinese systems, but they have decent Chinese system, not the top grade, but the mid grade.
Yes.
And Taiwan employs a strategy called porcupine strategy, which is deterrence by denial. When you employ such strategy, you have to carefully consider the opposition's offensive capability. And in this case, when the conflict started, Pakistan was the one sending drones. Pakistan was the one trying to attack our system. So that was the offensive capability. How Taiwan is looking at this, Taiwan is learning Taiwan is learning from India, as in how to defend against offensive capabilities using air defense system. And Taiwan is looking at use of Chinese mid-grade weapons like J-10C fighter, then J-17 Thunder, and their CM-400 AKG hypersonic missiles, which were majorly used against India. Some of them, as you rightly pointed out, some of them hit, some of them did not hit. Taiwan is looking at how India used its deterrence capability to stop them mid-air and in the terminal phase. But there is definitely a worry factor within Taiwan, maybe because of information warfare, maybe because of some facts that reportedly some of the Indian aircrafts were hit, or there was a collateral damage that India also had, despite being very punitive in its attack to Pakistan. So there is definitely a little bit of caution against Chinese weapon in Taiwan's policy-making system right now.
That's very, very interesting. You're saying that there are some that work, some that didn't work, but more importantly, that Taiwan is also studying the responses of India. Could there be any cooperation that you'd see in terms of intelligence sharing, sharing on-ground functioning and operations, and how India conducted herself?
There is a major, yes, I am pretty sure there is a coordination that is happening, cooperation that is happening behind the scenes. But there is one major caveat here. One, India uses Russian system, defense system, and Indian defense system. India uses S-400 and Taiwan uses Patriot system, which is an American system. So Taiwan is trying to learn the art of using systems and not how to place systems, how to create denial, and not the system per se, because the systems are two very different systems. Point number two, Taiwan still doesn't have air defense capabilities right now. They have purchased American Patriot missiles, which will be delivered this year and next year if there is no delay. So there is a huge gap there, and Taiwan is majorly worried about that right now because hypothetically, if something happens today, Taiwan doesn't have air defense capabilities. They have some missile capabilities, but not enough to defend their major cities and military installations. And Taiwan is, I am pretty sure there is a cooperation between India and Taiwan regarding how to protect yourself from drones, use of drones and drone swarms. This has been a major learning for Taiwan since the Russia-Ukraine war, since Israel-Palestine conflict, and now India-Pakistan. The use of drones and drone swarms. So that is something that Taiwan is definitely looking at.
Well, is Pakistan the only place where we're looking at China live fire testing, using Pakistan as a live fire testing ground? Is Pakistan their only lab, Suyash?
For concepts, no. For weapon systems, yes. Why concepts? No, because use of certain concepts were first tested in Ukraine and Russia, like drone swarms, like deterrence weapons, like the weapons which cost-effective weapons which could create maximum damage, the weapons that Ukraine used. And Ukraine is a good case study for Taiwan because it's David versus Goliath, like Ukraine versus Russia, like Taiwan versus China. So Ukraine was a good case study. But for weapon systems, definitely Taiwan is looking at Pakistan because 81%, as I pointed out, 81% of the weapons are from Pakistan, far from China. And these weapons are not tested yet. Yes, these weapons were tested in exercises between Pakistan and India, Pakistan and China, China-Cambodia military exercises. But in the real battlefield situation, in high pressure, where you have to deliver results, these weapons were not tested yet. So now that weapons are being tested in a real situation, Pakistan is a good case study for Taiwan to study how Chinese mid-grade weapons would be used. However, having said that, if hypothetically a conflict happens between China and Taiwan, there are much advanced weapons that would be used, which are not with Pakistan right now, which China would use. And the defense systems would also be very different because the defense system, the Taiwanese defense systems are purely American. Our defense systems are a combination of Russian, Israeli defense systems, some part of American, and then our self-manufactured. So these are two different ball games. Also, one important lesson for Taiwan here is integration of a defense system. One major critique, though India has performed very well in this, operation.
Is the Rafale and the S-400?
Yes, though India has performed very well in the conflict, but one major criticism or one limitation that India has been facing is a museum. In a very colloquial words, the museum of weapon system that India has, and Rafale being not able to integrate into that defense system. So integration took time, and this is where the India-specific upgrade comes into picture. However, Taiwanese defense system is purely Taiwanese American defense system. So how would Chinese infrastructure, Chinese ecosystem go against Taiwanese American ecosystem is a different case study. That is something very different that Taiwan is trying to understand.
Right. Very simply, just explaining to our viewers, Suyash, what you're trying to say is basically that all the weapons that that India has come from various countries, and the defense systems from various countries. An example is Rafale is French, S-400 Russian, and therefore communication between the weapon systems is very difficult because the platforms are difficult, and some of the countries are at war with each other, meaning they are not friends or not friends anymore, and therefore they do not want to share the platform. So for India, then it becomes very difficult. Taking this very concept forward, the fact that China has an integrated weapons system, proven in many ways than not, given that Pakistan has a mid-grade weapon system from China. China has even more advanced technology. How is the arms and weapons market looking for China?
Right now, after this, it's going to go up. If you already, as we have seen that the stock prices of Chinese aviation has already gone up. So major suppliers, China is a major supplier for Pakistan, Bangladesh, majorly South Asian countries, some Middle Eastern countries, and some African countries. But beyond that, major reliance of big players purchase these systems from Western nations like the US, the UK, France. So now looking at what has happened with India-Pakistan conflict and information warfare which has followed, where Pakistan and China were very successful to point out that we were the first strike, we did the first strike majorly because of the information warfare. There is going to be definitely going to be a spike in Chinese weapon system because some major claims that China has never had a fight or a battle since 1979, which was the Vietnam War, and so their weapons and personnel are not tested. The weapons part of it is tested, so it is going to be up from here on, I suppose. Maybe not the major players, but there would be many more minor players who would be buying these units from China. Also, another important point here is Western systems, air systems, Western defense systems are very expensive in comparison to Chinese systems. So that is a relative comparative advantage that China has with these systems.
Another very important factor, Suyash, is that America is going to be very important, and this is Trump's America. Should there be a moment with all the conflicts and all the pressures that the US is also feeling, should there be a moment that that China considers a window of opportunity to enter or cross the Taiwan Strait? Do you think, are there fears in Taipei that US might not walk the talk in the promises it made in the past?
I look at this question in two ways. One, Chinese capability, and one, what US is going to do. Past 2 years have been very difficult for China, not because of the weapon system, but because of the personnel policy. As you have seen, and many of your viewers already know, that in the past 2 years, there have been major corruption scandals, starting with PLA Rocket Force, going up to right now, where defense minister and vice chairman of CMC were sacked, or at least we don't know what's happening with them. So that has completely affected the morale of PLA, the People's Liberation Army, which is a major limitation for anything to happen vis-a-vis Taiwan. But if everything that is said on the media, social media, is true, this was a major win for Chinese weapons system. So that would act as a catalyst for pushing Chinese morale up. Though personnel are equally important as weapon system, this is where Chinese morale came down for past 2 years, and this is where Chinese morale is going up after the so-called excellent performance in the first 2 days, at least, of Chinese weapons and defense systems. That's point number one. Point number two, I think US is, at least under the Trump administration, US is going to be a major player. We would not know because US was very much sticking to the concept of strategic ambiguity in the Biden administration. But since the Trump administration, it has flip-flopped and strategic ambiguity and went closer to defense of Taiwan, which is also reflective in their actions in this region. So, for example, more FONOPS operations are happening. The delivery of weapon systems has increased. It has speeded up. More weapons are going to Taiwan. So, on that part, at least what I understand right now is there would be deterrence due to the American presence, at least till the time President Trump is in power. So it's a catch-22 situation where PLA is partly weakened, but also getting stronger due to the performance of the weapon system. And deterrence has been established because of the Trump administration right now, which was not the case during the previous Biden administration.
Okay. Again, very interesting. But in terms of sustainability, can Taiwan sustain a longer conflict with Beijing?
If the United States of America interferes, Taiwan can sustain. For if it's a very short conflict at this moment, Taiwan cannot sustain because, as I pointed out earlier, the air defense capability is still missing. Patriot missile systems are not in place. There are questions, and Patriot again to Chinese. In case of a conflict, Chinese would be using major weapon system. They're super advanced weapon systems, stealth fighters, and Patriot missile systems, which the Taiwan has right now, which Taiwan has right now from the US, which Taiwan is expecting right now from the United States, is again mid-level system. Their major systems is THAAD, THAAD, which is not available with Taiwan, which is majorly placed in Japan and South Korea, but Taiwan doesn't have access to THAAD. So the point
Isn't
here
that
is
unfortunate, Suyash? Because they keep talking about how the world will collapse if TSMC gets into the hands of China. That's the biggest semiconductor chip industry, and Taiwan has it. Taiwan owns it, and therefore most of the defense systems use chips that come out of Taiwan. It's an asset. It's not just a country, and like Thomas Friedman said, China is not looking at Taiwan because they want the land, they want TSMC. So isn't there a focus where DC knows exactly why they ought to protect Taipei?
That's a good point because you're absolutely right. But that is the case with every major power except maybe France. Because if you look at Russia, we still don't have S-500. China doesn't have S-500. If you look at Russia-India equation, Russia-China equation, if you look at China-Pakistan equation, Pakistan doesn't have J-20s. They have J-10s and J-17 Thunders. Again, their main strike aircrafts are with China and not with Pakistan. Similarly, if you look at US F-22s, even the NATO countries doesn't have F-22 and no one has THAAD. These are purely premium products that these countries keep for themselves. And then the second in line products are generally the export products. And that is what major countries do. Unfortunate and very unfortunate for Taiwan, but equally true. And that is why America has to come in. But THAAD are capable enough for hitting and protecting Taiwan from Japan and Philippines. And that is another, besides TSMC, the value of the land is also important because if Taiwan falls, it is an aircraft carrier in Pacific for the submarines to hide away into the Pacific and go to the United States. The first line of chain is completely broken. So I would say the land, TSMC, and the history, all three of it is equally important for it.
Well, very, very nicely put. Before I let you go, my final question to you, Suyash. There are worries, there are concerns, but in terms of the political parties over there, in terms of the chatter that you hear from the parliament, from the political circles, the security establishment, what's it that you're picking up?
So for the time that conflict, the Taiwanese or the Indian?
The Taiwanese.
So Taiwan has to relook at Taiwan's porcupine strategy. This is a complete different discussion altogether, but is there a porcupine strategy? Because from 2016 to 2020, there was a porcupine strategy, and then Taiwan has completely moved away from porcupine strategy to offensive capabilities. Porcupine strategy would definitely be defensive capabilities to delay Chinese invasion till the time US comes to defense. But they are looking at F-16s and tanks, which would attack China. So that's a different debate altogether. But yes, they are now reconsidering porcupine strategy after this. Point number one. Point number two, speeding up of defense deliveries because right now, as I pointed out, the systems are not available within Taiwan. There is a super delay that has happened, though it has speeded up under the Trump administration, but there is a super delay that has happened. Point number three, relooking at capabilities and relooking at personnel. So the weapon systems are equally important. Weapon systems are important, but the personnel behind the machine is equally important. And there is a serious gap here in military personnel. People here don't go for military, and that is why under Tsai Ing-wen's presidency, the compulsory military training was extended to 1 year, which was 6 months before Tsai Ing-wen, the previous president of Taiwan. So, re-looking at personnel policy and the same problem that China faces, Chinese military PLA personnel are more or less not very well educated, gone from cadre level, came from cadre level, so they don't cannot arm these systems. Similarly, Taiwanese personnel, they are more into technology, engineering. All these engineers go into TSMCs and semiconductors to earn more money. So the quality of personnel that Taiwanese military has, is it capable of using these advanced systems that they will get from the United States in this year and next year? So these are the four major takeaways that are for Taiwan, and these are currently under discussion within the Taiwanese policy circles and academia and
Suyash
media.
Desai, Suyash Desai, thank you so much for joining us here on India Today Global.